She had built an empire from nothing, but at 35,000 feet above the Atlantic, Alina Whitmore felt smaller than she ever had in her life. The CEO who commanded boardrooms with a single glance was now curled up in an airplane seat, her head resting on the shoulder of a man she had met only hours ago, unaware that the most important lesson of her life was about to unfold mid-flight. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when strangers care for each other, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Your support keeps these stories alive. Alina had boarded the overnight flight exhausted, her mind tangled in spreadsheets, investor demands, and the cold reality that success had cost her almost everything else. As the youngest CEO in her industry, she was admired, envied, and feared. But admiration did not warm an empty penthouse, and power did not quiet the ache that followed her into every silent night. She chose her window seat in business class, hopping to disappear into the darkness outside. The man beside her didn't look like the kind of person who flew business often. His jacket was worn but clean, his hands rough, his eyes tired yet gentle. A little girl of about 6 sat beside him on the aisle seat, clutching a small stuffed rabbit. Her cheeks were pale, and there was a faint shadow beneath her eyes. Alina noticed them only briefly before burying herself in her laptop, her world safely confined to numbers and strategies. The flight took off smoothly, and within an hour the cabin lights dimmed. The hum of the engines blended with Alina's fatigue. For weeks she had slept no more than 3 hours a night, preparing for a merger that could either double her company's value or destroy it. Her body finally surrendered. Without realizing it, she drifted sideways, her head gently falling onto the man's shoulder. He froze at first, surprised, but when he saw how deeply she slept, how the tension in her face softened for the first time, he didn't move. He adjusted slightly so she would be comfortable. His daughter glanced at him, curious, and he simply gave her a small smile, as if to say that sometimes kindness doesn't need permission. Mid-flight turbulence hit. The plane shook violently, jolting passengers awake. Alina stirred but didn't fully wake. At the same moment, the little girl began to cough deep, strained coughs that seemed to shake her entire small body. Her father's calm expression shifted instantly to worry. He reached into his bag, pulling out a small medical kit and a bottle of prescribed medicine. Alina's eyes opened slowly to the sound. Disoriented, she realized where she was and immediately pulled away, embarrassed. But the embarrassment faded when she saw the fear in the father's eyes as he tried to soothe his daughter. The child's breathing became uneven, her tiny fingers gripping the rabbit tightly. The cabin crew rushed over, but panic spread quickly in the confined space. Alina watched as the man fought to stay composed. She saw the way his hands trembled even as he whispered reassuring words. She saw the silent desperation of someone who had faced too much alone. In that moment, something inside her shifted. Alina had once dreamed of becoming a doctor before life steered her into business. She still remembered her training in basic emergency response. Instinct overrode hesitation. She leaned forward, her voice calm and steady, asking if she could help. The father nodded, hope flickering in his eyes. Working with the crew, she monitored the girl's breathing and helped administer the inhaler correctly. Minutes felt like hours. The turbulence continued, and the plane seemed suspended between fear and faith. Slowly, the child's breathing steadied. The color returned to her cheeks. The crisis passed as quietly as it had arrived. The father exhaled a breath he seemed to have been holding for years. His eyes filled with tears he tried hard to hide. Alina felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest, not pride, not achievement, but connection. As the cabin settled, he explained that he was flying to a specialized hospital in another state. His daughter had a rare respiratory condition. He had sold his small auto repair shop to afford this trip and the treatment. Insurance had denied coverage twice. He was all she had. Alina listened, her heart tightening with every word. Here was a man who measured success not in profits but in breaths. Each steady inhale of his daughter was a victory greater than any corporate acquisition. He apologized softly for disturbing her rest earlier. She shook her head, suddenly ashamed of the walls she had built around herself. For the remainder of the flight, they talked quietly while the little girl slept. He spoke about bedtime stories, about learning to braid hair from online tutorials after his wife passed away 3 years earlier, about pretending not to be scared so his daughter wouldn't be. Alina spoke less. For the first time in years, she simply listened. When the plane landed, the father prepared to navigate the airport alone, carrying both his luggage and his fragile world in his arms. Alina watched him struggle to manage the bags while gently waking his daughter. The old Alina might have offered a polite smile and walked away. The new Alina could not. She made a decision that no board member had approved, no investor had advised. Within hours, she had contacted her legal team and her foundation director. By the end of the week, her company had launched a healthcare assistance initiative for single parents facing critical medical expenses. The first grant, substantial enough to cover the girl's full treatment, was approved quietly and anonymously. But that was not the only change. Alina began restructuring her life with the same intensity she once reserved for corporate takeovers. She delegated more, listened more, and for the first time allowed vulnerability into her carefully guarded world. Success no longer meant climbing alone, it meant lifting others as she rose. Months later, she received a handwritten letter. The little girl's treatment had been successful. There was a photo enclosed, her standing in a park, smiling widely, rabbit tucked under her arm.